Let's do that. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Friday, May 26, 2017.
Commissioners Repenning, James, Davis, and Jacinto are present. We have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, starting with the Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Tim Tyson, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Veretta Everhart, LA Sanitation.
Good morning, Alfred Mata, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Angelica Samayoa with the Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Good morning, Raul Mendoza, Assistant Executive Officer. President James, we did receive speaker cards under public comment. One speaker card on public comment. We did receive comment cards under the Neighborhood Council commentary as well as on item 2. On item 2, also want to note that we received email comments which are distributed to the commissioners.
Okay, let's start with general public comment. Dr. Tom Williams.
Good morning. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council Land Use Committee member and director for Northeast 90032. Yesterday, it was a very important day. A unanimous vote by the MTA put SR 710 into hospice care. We are still fighting to get Caltrans, SCAGs, and the California Transportation Commission to remove it from their lists. However, there was another thing called 29.1 that shares the money from SR 710 Measure R budget, which is roughly over $700 million. 40% of SR 710 was through El Sereno and 90032. As part of the transportation systems measures and the demand measures on the back of this that I submitted, it was to be done for that $700 million. 90032 represents 40%. I would hope that we would have somebody in Bureau of Engineering or Bureau of Street Services to coordinate. We have LA 32 Neighborhood Council, Land Use Committee, has a list of over 12 projects right now and growing for the initial amount of maybe $40 million in the next 3 to 5 years and $240 million to come. So it's a rather important thing. We are more than willing to coordinate with the Board of Public Works and any designated funding manager, coordinator, somebody, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Those are all the cards I have for general public comment, so we will close general public comment. I don't have any cards under the official neighborhood council category of commentary, but I do have some individual neighborhood council members that have submitted cards on number 2. So we'll hear from them when we get to number 2. And there's another one. So we have a presentation this morning, a certificate of recognition, the Venice Japanese American Memorial Monument Committee from the Office of Community Beautification and our Commissioner Joel Jacinto. So Commissioner Jacinto, we will start with you this morning.
Thank you, President James, Commissioner Repenning, Commissioner Davis, Bureau execs in our city, Public Works family. It's a great day. Today is the ending of May, which is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. In our great city of Los Angeles, we have so much diversity. And our mayor's vision is really to be able to have a city that we find ourselves in, all our diverse communities. And I'm so excited today because we have a recognition of where a public works action by this board actually results in something that is so significant, not only for Asian American history, but for Los Angeles history. So I want to thank our board. I want to thank you all for back in March of 2015 for granting a revocable permit for something to be placed in the public right away. And it was through our Office of Community Beautification. So I would like to bring up our director, our great staff, Paul Roch, to talk about that. And we're also joined by many of the members of the community, as well as our friend Len Nguyen from Council District 11. Mr. Roch.
Good morning, Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification. The Adopt a Median program encourages community groups and organizations to get involved in improvements in beautification of areas of public property throughout the city of Los Angeles. Most typical Adopt a Median projects involve landscaping, planting, etc. Over the years, our office has worked with numerous groups, helping them bring their visions and their dreams into reality. This morning, as we conclude both Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and Public Works Week, it's appropriate that we're here celebrating an organization that through the Adopt a Median program was able to turn their vision into reality after 7 years of dedicated effort. So we are here celebrating the Venice Japanese Memorial Monument Committee, and I know they have a lot more stories to tell probably than I do about the process and what it became. I believe Commissioner Jacinto has the certificate he will now read.
Yes. Thank you, Paul. We're going to read this certificate, and we're going to ask for comments from our great committee. Certificate of Recognition from the Board of Public Works as we honor the Venice Japanese American Memorial Monument Committee for your dedicated volunteer service over the past 7 years and your partnership with the Board of Public Works through the Adopt a Median program to successfully build and install a permanent memorial monument to honor Americans of Japanese ancestry. This monument, dedicated on April 27th, 2017, in the community of Venice, marks a spot where over 1,000 persons of Japanese ancestry assembled before their forced relocation to Manzanar War Relocation Center. We present on the Board of Public Works. On behalf, we present this to you all. Thank you so much. Let's welcome Phyllis to the podium.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Phyllis Hayashibata, and I'm just honored to be part of this Venice Japanese American Memorial Monument Committee. And I want to thank, on behalf of the VJAM Committee, the Board of Public Works for giving us, for following the recommendations of the Office of Community Beautification and allowing us to put the VJAM on the public right-of-way. It's been a long process. We have programs for all the board members, and then I only have 5. But Len, you have some extra ones, so we could pass it out to the ones who don't get one. Let me see. So, and then these are some photographs for you to look at, and you may keep these. So these are for the 5 for the commissioners, and then Len will bring, let's see, I think you need like 4 more. But thank you so much. And come see it while it's still up and pristine. Thank you so much.
Brian Maeda, and on behalf of the committee, my brother also, Arnold Maeda. I was born in Manzanar, and my brother Arnold was taken when he was 14, 15, 16 to Manzanar. And so there are many memories, especially for my brother, and the issues of the fact that our family left from this very corner to this desert oasis, Manzanar. You know, this, I have to say that this was because of Roosevelt's Executive Order 9066, and today we see a lot of this executive order going on. And so we want this not to ever repeat itself, because today we're in very challenging times, as we all know. And that was one of the great impetus for us to persevere to make this monument. It started as a piece about no bigger than this. And it was a placard, and it just kept growing until now. It's like a 9 feet tall monument. So we're very appreciative, and maybe my brother can say a few words. Well, the monument was picked on that very corner on Venice and Lincoln because that's where a little over 1,000 Japanese and Japanese Americans were ordered to report with only what they could carry, meaning a suitcase, nothing more. For instance, our family had to sell and liquidate Santa Monica Nursery, and report to this corner with only what they could carry, and then be transported to this place that they'd never heard of, Manzanar, which is in Inyo County in the middle of the desert. So this is one of many staging areas at that time where you were ordered. They call it evacuation, but in point of fact, it was a forced removal of an entire race of people, some 120,000 Japanese and Japanese Americans during World War II. Anything else? I don't know if you have any questions or.
Commissioner Davis, thank you. Can we'll anybody else? Anybody else would like to speak?
Yeah.
Good morning, Suzanne Thompson with the Venice Japanese American Memorial Monument Committee and the Venice Arts Council. And the monument is there and it's installed, and thank you. We couldn't have done it without your support. But we also have a maintenance program that we're raising funds for and coordinating with the local youth, and also using it as an opportunity to educate them about what the monument is for. And then also we have an educational component. Phyllis, do you want to talk about that? Phyllis is our retired school teacher from Venice High School, which was really one of the impetus for the monument being put up. After 9/11, there was local organizations, the Beachhead and the Venice Peace and Freedom Party, that felt they connected the two, and they wrote articles, and one of her students picked it up, brought it into her class, and said, hey, let's make this a class project to write letters to Councilman, I think it was Rosendahl at the time, and to put a memorial marker, just a little stone with a plaque on it. But we were successful in getting a grant from the National Park Service, so that kind of upped our ante, and we were able to build a 9'6" solid black granite obelisk. So Phyllis has been working on the educational component. So we're using this monument not only as a commemorative piece, but also as an interactive piece to keep it alive so that this never happens to anybody again.
Thank you.
I just want to remind you that when Arnold Maeda came in 2015 before the board, he said, I hope that we put this up before I keel over. And we did. So the educational component consists, well, the maintenance and the education go hand in hand. So we're going to reach out to local youth groups with adult chaperones to wash down the monument with Windex, no harsh chemicals, and sweep up the debris around the corner, because there's 2 bus stops and there's a lot of debris on that corner. And then we're also going to try to make connections with local eateries for them to donate some lunch and refreshments for the students. So once again, thank you so much.
And on behalf of Council Member Mike Bonin, thank you very much for your support. And I'm sorry Bill couldn't be here today, but I know that he's smiling down on what we did here today. So thanks to the Board of Public Works. So thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you all for being here. We'll start with, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
I just wanted to add 2 things. One is the picture that we have is of the building that's still there on that corner. So it makes it like a landmark. And the picture we put in at the beachhead and on our letterhead and all our information shows people lined up carrying bundles and suitcases. So that's the significance of that picture. And that's what brought attention to the Venice High School students. And that motivated this whole project. I'm Emily Winters with the Venice Arts Council and also of the committee, the VJAM. We call it the VJAM committee. And the other thing was that many people didn't know that this happened, and they read the information. All four sides have information that people getting off the bus stop and look at. So on the front, it's what happened to these people, how they were taken. We don't want it to happen again. On one side is the quotes from 5 people who were taken to that corner, and one is deceased now. And on the other side is the donors that gave over $5,000 to this monument. And the first donor and supporter was Councilman Bill Rosendahl. And on the back, we have a map showing where Manzanar is in relationship to Venice, Malibu, and Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't acknowledge Mei Kakahashi, whose quote is also on the monument. Would you like to say your quote? She won't speak. But she talked about how they were asked to leave, and they gave them $25 and a one-way bus ticket. And she said, there's nothing left for us to go back to. Everything was taken. So we don't want this to happen again, and that's why we felt a monument, it's very elegant and very wonderful to see. So I hope you go look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Commissioner Davis, we'll start with you.
First, I'd like to commend our fellow Commissioner Joel Jacinto, who has been responsible for helping to coordinate Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. As you know, Mayor Eric Garcetti participates annually in numerous heritage months from various cultures that make up Los Angeles. And this specifically is what being in government is really all about. Today, I want to commend the entire Venice Japanese Memorial Monument Committee for the work that they have done, and not only putting together some dynamic monuments that tell a story that many in this city may not have known about, but through the work that you have done, you represent what it means to experience the American dream. Los Angeles, as it's a diverse city, probably one of America's most diverse cities, seeks to continue to serve all of its citizens. And so I want to thank Commissioner Jacinto for making this the highlight of the Asian American Heritage Month celebration. We all are much richer and much more aware. But I think as we all who have had experiences as minority cultures in this country have encountered these challenges, one of the things that has become very apparent, and that clearly is that there is more that unites us in different cultures than that divides us. And so this is such a timely tribute and monument. I will conclude by saying that often in society we have to fight to look at these issues of color blindness. People would like for us to have a colorblind society. However, there is an effort that recognizes that we must rather have a multicultural society, one that does recognize that there are different colors and different heritage and backgrounds. And I think we are stronger as a result of it. And I'm so proud of the leadership we have in this city. I often talk about Mayor Garcetti's back to basics, but I think what is very unique about how he has been able to lead is that he has made a core value working together with those from different backgrounds. So again, I thank my fellow commissioner, and I applaud each and every one of you on this committee. It is quite an asset, quite an educational lesson to all of those of us in Los Angeles. And we know, again, that we have more that unites us than we do that divides us, and you are a perfect example of that. Thank you for being you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Repenning?
I just want to thank you, Commissioner Jacinto, for bringing this to our board. I think it's a really important opportunity for us to give thanks to the community volunteers who worked on this to make it happen, and also talk about the importance of remembering history. What happened 75 years ago in this country with over 120,000 American citizens of Japanese descent, Japanese immigrants as well, being forcibly relocated is a dark part of our history. But it is one that we need to remember, we need to reflect on, we need to learn. And in doing so, this is how we move forward, and this is how we make sure that these times in our past that we are not proud of don't get repeated again in the future. So your work here today has made that remembrance possible, and I hope that as many young people and older people too have the opportunity to visit the memorial and learn and reflect. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Repenning. I'll close, Commissioner Jacinto, as Commissioner Repenning said, thank you for leading the recognition of the VJAM committee, I think, and I see in the cover letter as well. Congratulations to the work that you all did. I was here on March 25th, 2015 with my colleagues. I remember the presentation, Mr. Roch. Thank you for your recommendation. The presentation was moving and it was easy to support, obviously. One of the things that and it reminds me sometimes of just the passage of time on these projects when you talk about the life of the full life, the 7-year time, and then as Len mentions, Councilman Rosendahl is no longer with us. Reminds you of sometimes the length of time these things take, but I think during that time, the fondness of the process, the time that passes brings everyone together through working on the project, and new relationships are built, and just the conversations that are had during the process to educate people about what you were doing, I think there's benefit from that. And one reason I mention that, and I was thinking about this regarding reference to Councilman Rosendahl. Monuments are important, and Councilman Rosendahl has friends. I have some friends that right now are going through the process of building and creating and raising money for an AIDS monument. And while it's frustrating and hard at times, relationships are being built, and old relationships that had gone away are being rekindled. And so I do see a benefit in the process. So sometimes when people talk about, in government it took so many years, those years aren't wasted. That's not wasted time. And it's so important, the work that you all have done for our collective community. And I love the fact that this started with the idea of a high school student, I think, which is so very, very inspiring, and I think makes it a little bit of an easier, painful story to tell young people. So thank you all for your work and for your commitment. And I don't even know if this is a word, but I say it sometimes, for your stick-to-itiveness to stay with us and to stay with it. And very impressive. I look forward to visiting the monument, of course, and very impressive dedication ceremony that you can just, reading the program, and with all of the community leaders and the historic institutional knowledge that you all brought on April 27th, 2017. We want to thank you. It's nice that you've thanked us for our little part in the process, but just know that for our little corner of the process, we were very honored to have the opportunity to do it. So thank you all. And what I would like to do is just take a brief recess so that we can have a photo together, and then we'll go back on our agenda. And Mr. Roch, again, thank you, sir, as well for your assistance with this. It's very important with the way that we manage our public right-of-way. So we'll take a brief recess and we'll be back on our agenda.
Please remove your visitor tags. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome back. Let's go to, first of all, is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Wednesday, May 10th, 2017? Commissioner Penning seconds it. Any objection? Without objection, we will approve those meeting minutes. Agenda item number 2, above ground facilities appeal denial, 23160 West Burbank Boulevard. Commissioner Cinto is recommending that the board deny Ira Berman's appeal of the Bureau of Engineering's determination to locate the above ground facility adjacent to 23160 West Burbank Boulevard on the Wood Lake Avenue side of the lot. Mr. Ledoux, we'll start with you. Elizabeth, and I can't read your last name, I'm sorry. Oh, there you are. Do you want to speak before the neighborhood council folks do, or after the neighborhood council folks, or do you care? Okay, great. Mr. Ledoux, go ahead.
My name is Jeff Ledoux. I work with Bureau of Engineering Central District. This is an upgrade of an existing AT&T mobility cell site adjacent to 23160 West Burbank Boulevard on the West Lake Avenue side of the lot. This is one of those cases. This facility involves an existing utility pole with antenna array and small equipment on it, and it's being upgraded so that the meter is coming off of the pole and has to be placed in a meter cabinet, which is what gives Bureau of Engineering jurisdiction over the site, because like I said, the pole is a utility pole and it's exempt. They're also going to be putting in a full-size chem vault for all the electronics, and these vaults are huge. They're almost 20 feet high, over 17 feet long, and a little over 7 feet wide. So they're like a small house, and the top half of this chem vault has a large air conditioner in it, so there will be 2 flush mount vents. One's an air intake and one is a output of hot air from the vault. If you have a copy of the board report and look at the after photo sim, you'll see what's happened to Mr. Ira Berman, the appellant here. That's the front of his property, and you have the pole that exists, and it's a utility pole. It was put up and did not need a city permit because it was totally contained on that utility pole. Now they're going to upgrade the antenna array, and you can see where we're going to place the meter cabinet, which is on the side of the property, not the front. They're going to put the vault and the vent stacks in that little cutout, which is actually part of the public right-of-way there in front of his property. And you might notice it's not labeled, but over to the left, you'll see some cabinets. There's actually 2 AT&T cabinets on the property next to him, his neighbor, that are close to his property. So basically, that's one of his reasons for appealing this, is that this whole site he's being surrounded in telecom equipment. There's no doubt about that. He's also concerned with the climate control vault because it is a large air conditioner on it. It does make some noise. It is within the city's noise regulations in the municipal code, but it is a large air conditioning unit. This is in CD3, Bob Blumenthal's district, and they've, as it said here, basically the board person says they're neutral at this point, but they are in support of working out a compromise solution for this installation and have been involved in this, and I've been in communication with that council office over this AGF application. We had an appeal hearing with Commissioner Jacinto, as said, on February 22nd. And what was proposed is there are a series of street or utility poles up and down Burbank Boulevard. The one that we have right now with the existing installation is just one of those. And we asked to see if it could be moved to one of these other poles and if there would be room to put that climate control vault there. Now, one of these poles is adjacent to LA County flood control channel. That is actually the one that's furthest from the proposed site. It's actually about 354 feet from the proposed site, the pole that already exists. There is one other one that is next to a property, but this property is long and it's at the end of it, that is about 235 feet from the existing installation and utility pole. And we asked AT&T Mobility if, one, you could put the installation there and have room for the climate control vault, and would you still be able to propagate signal over the area that you were trying to get with the existing upgrade. And to that end, we did ask them for propagation maps, which I just, I see you all have them, 5 copies of it. The propagation maps, as you have there, show that there is significant loss of coverage at either of those other 2 locations. It says to the tune of about 40% loss of covered area, which is a very significant amount of loss if those propagation maps are indeed correct. And that was what prompted the recommendation to deny the appeal, because the loss in propagation area was extremely significant according to the evidence that was submitted to us by AT&T Mobility. And that's basically where we are now.
Okay. Mr. Ledoux, are there, recognizing that there was an attempt made at an alternative, but the alternative that you've described loses 40%, was there a second alternative, a plan C, if you will, that was studied that was maybe a bit of a sweeter spot?
One wasn't proposed. Basically, the furthest pole, which is next to the county flood control channel, was the one that was being pushed by the neighborhood council, and I also pushed for the one that was closer, because that's even better than the current situation if it would work. Beyond that,
What's the problem with that?
The problem on both of them is loss of propagation area for the signal. It's significant according to their documentation on both ends. Obviously, AT&T Mobility could possibly move to one of these poles, but it would necessitate them to put up another cell site somewhere along Burbank Boulevard in that area to make up the loss of
So then we're just populating cell sites.
Yes, we're putting up more cell sites.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hear from our speakers, and then we'll continue the discussion. Anybody else have a question for Mr. Ledoux before we continue? Okay, thank you, sir. I understand that, let me work with me here. So I've got some speaker cards. Do we have one person that's speaking not as an individual, but as the president of the neighborhood council? Okay. Is that Joyce Fletcher? Okay, come forward, ma'am. Go ahead. Let's hear what you have to say, and if you need additional time, then we'll deal with it.
I think I'm just going to present to you the neighborhood council's opinion and then some observations that we have and opinions that we have. I'll try to be brief.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Joyce Fletcher, president of the Woodland Hills Warner Center Neighborhood Council. On February 8th, 2017, the Woodland Hills Warner Center Neighborhood Council voted unanimously 19-0 to not approve this project and to support the appellant's appeal. The Neighborhood Council submitted an extensive case report previously to you back then. As proposed, AT&T's modification includes removing all equipment from the site's existing utility pole and practically building a new facility up from that point. The council feels that the addition of 4-inch conduits along with one 3-inch conduit, that it significantly increases the bulk massing and visual impact of the pole. The modification also introduces As you've heard, a large underground vault, above-ground equipment, and the installation of further new equipment, which also adds a 48-inch tall electric meter pedestal. All these modifications will transform an existing single-pole antenna site into a permanently embedded major telecommunications facility that is inappropriate for this location and neighborhood, and the large underground vault will generate significant noise for the nearby residents. The Neighborhood Council and stakeholders have repeatedly voiced serious concerns that modifying this existing wireless site as requested by the applicant will have a negative and unnecessary impact on the adjacent single-family residents in a single-family residential neighborhood. The project was presented to the Woodland Hills Neighborhood Council Plum Committee on 6 occasions from August to February, and it was carefully reviewed. The Plum Committee extensively reviewed the site and the surrounding neighborhood. We looked for ways to alleviate these concerns. As a result, a suitable alternate site was identified at 3 posts to the east on Burbank. It is away from residents, and it is situated between a county flood control channel on the south and Burbank on the north. Relocating to the new location as proposed by the Neighborhood Council will overcome the negative factors associated with modifying this pole. Despite numerous protests from the appellant, the neighbors, and the council, the applicant has rejected all efforts to relocate to the facility as recommended, and despite several requests, the Neighborhood Council feels that the applicant has failed to present any firm data or viable reasons to disqualify the alternate location. The applicant did not deliver the search ring studies we requested, did not deliver relevant signal propagation maps that our Plum Committee requested, as these documents that were provided were by AT&T and not an outside study. And the applicant has not provided convincing evidence that construction at the new location would result in any additional cost, any additional labor, or that the signal coverage will in any way be inferior. Also, the applicant has not adequately addressed to the Neighborhood Council any construction issues that will directly affect the neighborhood and the quality of life. In fact, the alternate site that is recommended by the Neighborhood Council offers several advantages and solves several numerous problems. The location is not in front of any residents. The underground vault will not interfere with any sewer lines. The width of the sidewalk is sufficient to permit installation of the underground vault without having to intrude under Burbank Boulevard. There are no block walls within 20 feet of the vault, and the 120-foot additional trenching will not be necessary because the site is not on a corner and service will not be disrupted. These advantages will be further explained by our Plum Committee members who are present today. Therefore, because the applicant has chosen, without supporting evidence, to continue with their original proposal, the board of the Woodland Hills Warner Center Neighborhood Council cannot support the proposed project and strongly recommends approval of the appellant's appeal. Thank you for your time, and thank you for helping us with this.
Thank you, ma'am. I may have a couple of questions for you. But I'm going to start with Mr. Ledoux, so don't go far. Okay. Mr. Ledoux, just so we're clear, the suitable alternative site that Ms. Fletcher references, which one is that? Is that the site near the floodplain, or is that the site that you looked at that AT&T's claiming loses 40% of serviceability?
The site just by the floodplain is the furthest pole, and that one's about 350-some feet away from the existing pole. That's the primary site because it's away from houses, the air conditioning unit.
But is that, I'm just trying to figure out which site the neighborhood council's recommended.
They're representing the one by the flood control channel.
Okay. And that's the same one that you're describing now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, keep describing it.
Because there's no house anywhere near that, the air conditioning unit would not interfere with anyone's pleasure, enjoying their yard and stuff like that, and it is away from houses. So that would be the best preferable site. The other one, the pole that is about 120 feet closer, is one that I suggested that we look at also, because it also is much further away from any dwellings, and it's close to the flood control channel. So if the first alternate didn't work, maybe we could get away with the second alternate.
And is the one site, I'll call it the neighborhood council site for purposes of at least my discussion, is that the site that, what's the service loss according to AT&T? Do you know, or do I need to ask them?
Well, according to what you have here, the service loss between the two sites is close. There may be 5 percentage points difference. We do have AT&T experts here, obviously, because this is mine, but they're claiming somewhere around 40% loss of coverage area.
Okay. Do you have any, as a bit of a referee here for you, I haven't asked AT&T yet, but the neighborhood councils claimed that they didn't get information from AT&T regarding the service. Do you know whether there was any were there were any unanswered requests? Are you privy to that one way or the other?
All I know is that when we did have the hearing, I had talked with the consultant Jermaine Taylor that AT&T Mobility used, and I said, okay, what I would like to see when you come to the appeal hearing is that you have the propagation maps for Site 1 by the flood control channel and this other pole, and that it also state what the percentage of loss and coverage for the two are. When we had the appeal hearing, he was not prepared at all for site number 1, or I should say the second site. He was partially prepared for the site that's next to the flood control channel, but did not know what the loss of propagation area was. So Commissioner Asento asked them to provide that and give it to me, and then we would confer together. I will say that it took a long time because they submitted stuff to me 2 times that didn't fulfill what I asked. And so they finally got it to me on the 3rd go-round, and obviously a month or more passes between each one of these requests, which is what's taken a lot of time. So that's the difficulty Commissioner Asento and I had. I would assume that the neighborhood council had similar or greater.
Okay. Any other questions for either Ms. Fletcher or Mr. Ledoux before we move to the individuals from the neighborhood councils? All right, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. So let's see, I'll just go in the order in which they are. Well, actually, yeah, let's do this. I don't have a name on this card. So I'm going to go through all the others, and they just told me that they support the appeal. So whoever put in a card, there will be one that didn't get called. So Gilbert Yablon, we'll start with you. Okay, that makes sense. So who would like to be first? Okay, and who are you, sir? Okay, so let me take care of your card. Is this your card, sir? Would you just because that card doesn't have a name on it, so I just want to. Okay, so go ahead, sir. You solved 2 things already.
I'm Mr. Anonymous, I guess.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm here to support the appellant, and I'm the member of the Neighborhood Council Plum Committee that did the thorough study on the project, and I'm here to present a comparison between modifying AT&T's plan to modify the existing site, and the other alternative would be to move to the 3rd pole down Burbank, which would be the site that we recommended, the Neighborhood Council recommended. So and also want to talk to the benefits that are derived from the various aspects of that. And I'll quickly go over those. Some of those have already been covered. First item is these first columns are results of modification to existing site. Secondly, the results of constructing a new site at the other pole. And the third comment will be who benefits from that if they move to the recommended new site. Number one is if they modify, it'll be an expansion which is already in front of the residence. If they locate it at a new site, it'll be expanded, but it'll be away from residences, as was previously mentioned. And the benefit would be to the neighbors and the community. Secondly, the modification adds more operational noise in front of the residence. Move to the other site, the noise is still there, but it's away from the residents. And again, that's a benefit to the residents. Adds more clutter and negative visual impact around the residents if it's modified in the current location. The clutter and negative impact would be moved to the other location, which again is further away from residences. And again, the benefit would be to the residents and community.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we're going to have to keep moving.
Yeah, okay.
No, I understood. I have to move to other speakers.
Oh,
okay. Thank you. Whoever wants to go second, sir, I'm not who. Are you going second?
I guess.
Okay, you can come up and state your name, please.
I was under the impression that as long as I didn't cover the same material that had been covered, that I could speak for longer than...
Are you Ira?
No, I'm not Ira.
Okay, Ira gets that privilege. He's the appellant.
Can he give me his minutes?
No.
Okay, that's good. All right. Should he speak?
It's up to you all. If you want Ira to speak, Ira can speak.
I'd like to have a chance after AT&T. I'd like to say something now, but I'd also like a chance to...
Sir, do you have a card in?
Yes, I do.
What's your name?
Gilbert Yablon.
Okay, let me find your card. Sir, if you want to speak now, you can speak now. Otherwise, I'll call your card if I feel like the hearing is suitable. Otherwise, I won't.
Okay, so there's two things. One, you asked if AT&T had responded to Plum's requests, and I have 5 emails that, as I was rushing up here, here they are. I just so you know, it's only my own fault. I've been up for 3 days straight trying to prepare a very sophisticated case, and I ran out of time, and it's a mess right now. But these emails, and I was preparing a packet for everyone, kind of show that we kept asking for the signal information, and they didn't provide what we asked for. And then,
I think it's fair to say that the board got that message from Mr. Ledoux, but go ahead.
This is to confirm.
And that's the reason I asked him that, because oftentimes we'll have one group that will say, we provide notice, the other group will say we didn't, and I used Mr. Ledoux as the referee, and he answered that for us. So go ahead.
Okay, so the main thing that's at stake here, I think, is the signal quality going to be good enough at the alternative site that the Neighborhood Council has proposed? I was on the ad hoc Plum committee that explored this in 6 of our sessions, and we spent several months really exploring it. I'm also a board member of the Neighborhood Council, and I'm also a very technically oriented person, and there's no reason in that neighborhood that there should be any kind of impact on the signal. I have a series of maps, including topology maps for that area. There's a little pin that shows where our alternative site is, and just to the left of that, a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, less than 1/10 of a mile, is where the current site is. And I also was able to go into Apple Maps and get a very good view from all angles of anything that might be in the way. There is nothing in the way. So the only thing that can explain AT&T's 40% signal loss when you move 3 houses to the east.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Is that AT&T has made a remarkable scientific discovery, and that spot has some kind of very unusual energy that causes things to not behave the way things do in the normal physical world.
All right.
So something's wrong with the data. Something got input improperly, but it's very questionable, including the fact that there's several errors in the reports where they call location 1 location 2 sometimes, and location 2 location 1 sometimes, and they never really clearly specify which one is which, and we had a lot of confusion figuring that out. I've also prepared a series of maps that show in a dotted outline the signal spread of the current site, and you can see how dramatic the shrinkage of it is when you're just moving. It's really 2 lots in that area.
Okay,
So,
thank you,
anyway,
sir. Thank you, sir. I'm going to
Okay.
move to Nancy McLean. Good morning.
And there's no way I can give Gilbert my time?
Nope,
Why not?
it's not the way we do it, ma'am.
Okay.
And it's very unusual in the city that I don't put a time limit on the real parties in interest, which are the appellant and AT&T. And I didn't put a time limit on Ms. Fletcher either. And I've got some questions for her. But because everybody's time is important, if I did it the other way, we'd be here all day. Go ahead.
My name's Nancy McLean, and I'm also on the Plum Committee and the board member of Woodland Hills Council. I have seen the work that Gilbert and Henry Rice have done. It is factual. I live right around a corner from the site. There is no reason that it can't be moved to the site where they're suggesting. Absolutely no reason. And if you look at all of the data that is provided, you will understand that. It seems to me that this happens all the time with these big telecommunication companies, that they always get their way. And they aren't providing the information that you need, the factual information, because they're used to just doing whatever they want. And that's fine, but it impacts our neighborhood. And as I say, there is no reason that cannot be moved down there. And I hope that you will look at the information that Gilbert can provide to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, whoever's next. I don't have any other neighborhood council. Ms. Fletcher, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Would the neighborhood council, in your opinion, prefer, let's assume that the statements from Ms. Ledoux are accurate. We'll get to AT&T in a minute. Would they prefer moving the site to the alternative site, losing 40% of coverage, and getting an additional cell location over the current location?
I hate to answer for the entire neighborhood council.
Well, I understand. That's
and
why.
Especially the Plum Committee. I believe your question is, do we prefer the alternate site that we have proposed to a second site, a different site, other than the one that the applicant is requesting?
You phrase it an easier way. Hearing what you've heard this morning
Yes.
from Mr. Ledoux,
Yes.
that if we go with your alternative site,
Yes.
40% of the coverage could be lost and an additional site could be required. Hearing that today, would you still support the alternative site?
Yes, I support the alternative site. We did a very extensive case report on this site, which we did mail to city planning. That was many pages. We have, over the past few months, researched this in detail. We have every belief. We're not experts on cell phone towers, but we believe that at the alternate site, they are in fact going to have the same coverage. It's not that far away. It's only down the street. There are no hills there. There are no large buildings there. It's single-family residence of basically 1- or 2-story homes. So there's no reason for there to be such a diverse coverage where they can say, on this, at this house, it's this amount, and three doors down, we lose half our coverage. It just being logical, that does not make sense. And
Thank you, ma'am. I got the answer.
Okay, thank you. We prefer the alternate site. All of our board members do, and we've all looked at it extensively.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I get to our appellant, Mr. Berman, I do want to, I just feel compelled to put something on the record. We all know that your time is very busy and you all have your own lives. We are here, as we all do, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. We have a lot of above-ground facility hearings. And I believe that if you had the opportunity to be here for all of our hearings, which of course only we do, but the telecom companies do, they do not feel that they always get their way. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to remember the last time that we didn't have an altercation or either force a settlement, grant an appeal, send the parties back for more, and as a result, much more time is spent on these hearings, but we're getting a lot of consensus around the city. And I think you could talk to any of the telecoms. And if you don't want to believe them, you could look into our oral records, because every one of our meetings is recorded. And just 2 days ago, we continued an item for 90 days for the telecom company and the community to go back with the council office and find an alternative method or an alternative location. And to do that, we requested and received an agreement from the telecom company to toll the statute of limitations on the item. So I like to clear the record up. Mr. Berman, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Well, what brought this on to begin with, and thank you again for listening to me.
And by the way, just for the admonition that I give the real parties an interest, is we don't put a time limit on you unless you start to repeat yourself.
I won't.
And then we're going to think that everything's been said that you want to say. So go ahead.
So basically why I started and how it got to this point is that I moved into the house about 20 some odd years ago. All right, there was a telephone pole there. I didn't think anything of it. I just figured that it was just part of my getting telephone service. All right, is exponentially grown over a period of time. We've got 2 towers on the side, which you've seen. Okay, now they're proposed to put another vault. Okay, change the antenna system, make the pole even bigger. All right, I suffer from tinnitus. All right, I hear the air conditioning now. Can you imagine when it's going to be 5 times bigger than where it is? I'm the one who researched the site. Okay, to move it 3 poles down. I also offered at the back of my property, okay, that would be something that would be an alternative since it's far away from my house.
What was the issue with that, sir?
They didn't think that would work either. Okay, and in fairness, the Plum Committee and everybody else has been really great on this. What really happened, was the fact that they never kept, the Plum Committee kept asking for reports. They never sent reports. They kept coming to the meetings and eventually stopped coming to the meetings. All right. First time we actually saw them again was with Mr. Jacinto. All right. And again, they were not prepared. All right. My thought is that if we're going to build something, okay, there should have been a study made. Okay, what's going to happen? All right. For now, 5 years and 10 years down the road. All right. Because we all know that this is not going to be the ending of this pole. All right, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, all right, unless we come up with some miraculous way to change that, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So my thought on this is that...
Well, you certainly have an argument that it's getting bigger now. I don't know that it'll continue to get any bigger, but go ahead.
Well, we went from, what, three
I hear you. It's growing now, but go ahead.
All right. So my thought is that if we moved the site so that it was not anywhere near any home, all right, then maybe they could figure out a way to make the signal stronger, all right, so that we wouldn't have this problem, all right, or actually just get a study, to go that would actually show that it does. All right, and I can't see 40%, but I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Taylor? Anything you want to add? You're from AT&T? Yes. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Regarding the lack of providing requested information to the neighborhood council, what's AT&T's response to that, if any?
In regards to the requested information by the neighborhood council, we've provided them everything that they've requested from us. We went out to the site, we've explored other opportunities, other options, and they just didn't seem to work out. We've attended multiple hearings with the neighborhood council in regards to them saying the site expanding and other equipment being added. That's the purpose of us proposing this underground vault. Because with the underground vault, basically we'll be taking all of the equipment off of the pole and putting it in an underground vault, which will no longer be visible. So next time there is time for upgrades and everything, we won't have to propose any additional equipment to the pole. We'll be able to install it in the underground vault that we're proposing today. So in regards to them saying that, we didn't provide the information that they requested, we provided them everything. So, in regards to upgrading the site, yes, we're upgrading the site. We're swapping out the antennas, but we're also making it future compatible to where we don't have to be adding things to the pole. Everything will be in the underground vault. So.
Okay, so a hypothetical situation, and then we'll go to Commissioner Davis. Well, maybe not such a hypothetical. As I understand from Mr. Ledoux, if the alternative site is mandated by this board, then according to AT&T, because of the loss of approximately 40% of serviceability, I'm using the wrong term, but you know what I mean, an additional cell above ground facility will be needed to shore up that 40%. Could you describe what that above ground facility infrastructure would be and where it might be, what kind of area you would look for to place it?
Well, in regards to the second proposed facility, it would depend on the location. This location is very difficult because it's a residential neighborhood, and as you guys know, we're not freely to build cell sites in residential neighborhoods. So we would have to basically find another location to build another facility, which would be a second facility. And on top of that, we don't know how far and how that would impact the network, because the existing facility is in place. And the only thing that we would be doing is removing the equipment from the pole to an underground vault. So in actuality, there would be no, it would be a less visual impact from the modifications that we're proposing versus us building a whole nother wireless facility, which may have the same impact in the next neighborhood. Because, of course, when we go build the next facility, we're going to have to go through, hearings and things like that. So, we would be faced with the same hurdles that we're faced today.
Right. Okay. I may have some more questions for you, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Davis, go ahead.
I just wanted to get some clarification in terms of where we are. There is currently an alternative site that the Neighborhood Association has proposed. And did you look at how, in fact, we could create an opportunity to move all of the materials that are necessary to that particular site?
Yes, we looked into that, and the alternative location that they're proposing is located by the flood control, which we don't actually know if we're even going to be able to do those kind of upgrades because we're proposing an underground vault, and as you know, with the flood control, we're very limited on how we can, penetrate the flooring on that. So with the existing facility, if we propose an underground vault where it's already existing, it'll be a lot more feasible because it doesn't impact the network. We don't have to look into installing additional sites. And basically, the only thing was to be the underground vault. And
So there currently is an underground vault at the current location that you're proposing?
The current location has equipment located on the pole.
Correct.
So what we're doing is that we're proposing an underground vault to where we can take that equipment off of the pole and put it in an underground vault. So when next year...
So did the neighbors understand they are opposed to an underground vault at the current location? Is that correct?
Well, from my understanding, they're just
opposed to that?
They're opposed to the project totally. But I mean, if we were to walk away today, the project would still be there. The antennas would still be there. All the equipment would still be on the pole. So if we were to walk away today, the project would still be there. They would still have the same complaints. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to make the facility a little bit more appealing by taking the equipment off of the pole and putting it in an underground vault. So next year, next 2 years, when it's time for the upgrades, we don't have to deal with this.
So the neighbors are opposed to the equipment underground being at the location currently that you're proposing. Is that
correct?
That's a circumstance. Now, if that is the case, is there another alternative as to where we could construct the underground vault other than the location in which they have opposition to?
Well,
and if so, what would that location be? And secondly, did the neighbors ever give us an alternative as to where we could implement this underground vault? If they don't like it in Site A, did they give you an opportunity to look at a Site B where there could be an underground vault? Did you hear anything from them with that kind of a recommendation?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So now my question then for the neighbors is somebody available for the neighbors? Because I would have some concern if we did not express what an alternative could be to build the underground vault. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Fletcher, I'm sorry, we make come forward. We make an oral record that's always it's available to the public online, so microphones are important. So go right ahead, ma'am.
I would like to say that
you can get closer to the microphone for us.
I would like to say that I believe that the representative is perhaps forgetting some of the process with this project. He says he's taking things off the pole. He is taking things off the pole, but then he's putting things back on the pole. And the things that he's putting back on the pole are bigger than what's on the pole now. So to say that we should be grateful that he's taking stuff off the pole and putting it underground, that is in fact not the case. Other stuff will be on the pole, more stuff.
Is there an alternative, though, however, that you have recommended to AT&T?
I would have to let you speak to Gilbert about that because he is the case. He's the case leader.
Let me get control of this meeting. We're going to have to do these things one at a time. I'm sorry, Commissioner Davis. So let's wrap up. Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. Commissioner Davis, if you could wrap up with the AT&T rep, and then we're going to go to the council office.
Let me summarize my concern. My concern is that I think that obviously a resolution to the problem is an alternative site, and I'm unclear that we have had some specific recommendations from the neighborhood association about where an alternative site would be. I think that's reasonable, that you should do that. I think that you should communicate with AT&T and let them know where you think the alternative site is. I thought that would have already been done.
Okay. Well, and I think the neighborhood has spoken to that. But all right, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Elizabeth, could you let me know what your last name is? I can't read it. I'm sorry.
It's N.A.
N.A.?
Elizabeth N.A., yes.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
So Elizabeth N.A. representing Councilmember Blumenfield. We do support moving it if there is an opportunity to move the pole. I feel like there's some discrepancies in terms of what the neighborhood understands, the facts to say, and then what AT&T is saying. So if it can be moved, we do support that. If it can't, then we do strongly request that, noise and visual impacts be strongly mitigated with landscaping and design.
So here's my question for you. You
Yeah.
say be moved. I'm hearing that it can be, but potentially your constituents lose 40% of coverage, according to, and I recognize that that's being disputed by the community, but to some extent we have to trust the experts here, and so what would the council office want?
Well, ideally, being moved without the 40% loss, obviously. And I get it, 50 feet, 40% loss within a 50-foot distance. It's questionable, but,
Well,
ideally we don't.
one thing we
don't
can
want
do
the
is we
40%
can
loss.
mandate they move it, and we'll see how the coverage is. I mean, that's one thing we can do. So I hear that, so the council office would support the moving to an alternative location, which we understand, and I think we would support it too. At least I would. But any other concerns or anything else you'd like us to know from the council office?
I mean, just that, it is right by the neighborhood. That these are human beings that live, so but again, the 40% loss coverage is an issue.
Yeah, regarding the human being issue, we hear that, and then when we grant an appeal, and then we also hear from people that are human beings that like to be able to contact their children and like to be able to have their kids learn on internet at home. So we have we have some balancing issues on that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we try to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ledoux? Do you have any, based on your experience, and there's a reason I'm not asking AT&T this question, even though they're sitting in the room. If we grant this appeal, what's the likelihood that AT&T just walks away from this one?
That's hard to say because I don't know what the consumer demands are for the upgrade for this site. Like I said, the likelihood of a second site having to be planned is pretty great.
Sorry, the likelihood what?
The likelihood of a second site having to be constructed is really great, and it's a matter of whether there is something like that site that the neighborhood council wants. It's away from houses and also would have least amount of interference in the neighborhood. Whether or not that's possible or not, I don't know, because like I said, if their data is anywhere near correct, they're going to be in a major hole if they do move this site down, and the only way to overcome it is to put up another site, and it's a matter of if there is a decent alternate site to put that other one at. But I don't know what they'll do, whether they'll walk away from it or not, because I don't know what their consumer demand is in that area.
So I have a real concern of the community not getting service too. I mean, I have, I don't want the community not to have service. I know how that affects property values too, property values of a lot of people.
Yes, and you've seen that testimony before the board
Yes,
also.
yes. When we have people that can't get the service, or their neighborhood is not properly built for the upgrades that are on their way, that's a problem too. So it's a lot to balance here. All right, thank you, Mr. Ledoux. Commissioner Cinto?
Thank you, President James. Having done the hearing and going back and forth, and I appreciate the neighborhood association's advocacy here, we have sort of two options. One is to explore moving the facility, and a possible second one that we don't know, or the mitigation that we talked about during the hearing on managing the environmental impact to the homeowner through the noise. And I had asked, and Jeff, could I ask you a question in terms of there are regulations that any cabinet or any fan would have to adhere to, correct? If we were to underground all the equipment, all the hardware at the site, and have a fan, that fan would be subject to minimum standards. Yes?
There is a noise regulation ordinance within the Los Angeles Municipal Code that is administered by both the police department and building and safety. Basically, it mandates a maximum decibel level of 45 at night and 55 during the day. That's 40 and 5 for ambient noise and 50 plus ambient noise. I will say this. In my time doing this and coming across noise complaints, getting that noise ordinance actually enforced has been somewhat problematic.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Would you repeat that last sentence, Jeff?
When I get a complaint that an installation is over the decibel level in that noise,
Yeah.
and I have endeavored to contact the police department and the Department of Building Safety. They point fingers at each other. No one does anything. I even have referred it to the council office. Said, would you please do this? Contact these. And they did the same thing to the council office. They pointed fingers at each other.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Taylor, I have a question for you. If we grant this appeal and with the condition, the compromise that we move to an alternative location, what's AT&T? Well, first of all, let me tell you what the question is going to be, and then I have a question for Mr. Ledoux. If we grant the appeal as to the current proposed location next to Mr. Berman's residence, I'm going to ask, but before I want you to answer, I want to hear from Mr. Ledoux. I'm going to ask, what is it likely? Mr. Ledoux, do I have two alternative locations? We've got the alternative location that you've described, and then we've got the one that the neighborhood councils described next to the floodplain?
That's correct.
Okay, so one's the floodplain location, the other one is?
At the tail end of a property that's very long.
Okay. Do you happen to know, have you been in communication with the neighborhood council regarding your alternative location?
The neighborhood council was represented at the appeal hearing with Commissioner Jacinto, and they were aware that I wanted to look at both poles, because if one didn't work and maybe the other one did, and either pole was a better situation than what we had.
That was your impression? That either pole was better?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Fletcher, is that fair enough, that either pole, either alternative is better than the current location that's being proposed? Okay, so the answer to that part was yes. Okay, understood. And Ms. Enna, you feel the same way about the council office? Either proposal would be okay, other than the current location, either of the two? Okay. Sure. Okay, Mr. Ledoux, on the one that is, my concern with the floodplain is the trenching near floodplain.
The trenching she's talking about is in Burbank itself. Like I said, one of the things that I asked of Jermaine Taylor is to check and see with either of the other two alternate sites, could the vault fit there? Because first of all, you have to see, are there any existing substructures such as gas lines, water lines, storm drains, all that stuff that would stop you from putting that? Because like I said, that you got to dig a 22-foot hole to drop that thing in. It's big. From what we could determine there were no existing utility structures in that section. The other thing is that obviously you don't want to undermine the flood control channel wall. That's why I said, look and see, is it even possible? Because if you can't put the vault there, you can't move the site there, because the vault has to be a certain distance from the antenna array.
What would BOE prefer to do for public safety issue and on the engineering issues? Would it be to avoid the floodplain, or are you okay going near the floodplain?
We go either way as long as it can be done.
Okay. Who makes the determination as to whether or not it can be done?
Normally, we rely upon the applicant to determine that it can be done at a particular site. When we do the technical review, actually after the AGF itself is approved, obviously we do double check to see if there's something they missed.
Does the county need to be consulted regarding if we go towards the floodplain?
I have an engineer on the board here. He would be more qualified than I would.
Alfred Mata, Deputy City Engineer, happens to be here today.
Yes, thank you. I anticipate that the structure would be located in the city's public right-of-way, so I don't think it would be within the county's jurisdiction. That's what I would presume.
Right, but my concern would be, is there risk that there is, that we are somehow adversely affecting the benefit to the community of the floodplain?
Certainly, if there was a proposal from the applicant to do something along those lines that would impact the flood control facility,
would be reviewed.
Then it would have to be reviewed by the county, but I suspect that they wouldn't propose something.
Understood. So, so that said, it sounds like is the floodplain option, that was the first option from the neighborhood council, correct?
That's the first option because that's the one furthest away from actual houses.
And that's the one that's within 5 points or so of the 40% so-called reduction?
According to those
AT&T.
stats there, like I said, from site 1 to site 2, there's not a lot of variation in loss of propagation.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir. Mr. Taylor, I'm about to put a motion on the table. I don't know if I'll have any support or not, but I'm about to put a motion on the table that says that that the appeal is granted with the request that you look at the area near the floodplain. What would AT&T's response be? Sir, go ahead.
Sir, I apologize. My name is Noel Pele with AT&T also.
Go ahead.
Before we proceed with the additional commentary and the motion on it, we do have the reports that show the propagation for the alternative sites to corroborate the statements that were made of losing 40% coverage within the area.
Okay, understood.
So we can go ahead and share that with you right now.
I'm assuming that you've got that.
Right.
And I'm going to buy it. But so my question to you is, what is AT&T's next move if I put that motion on the table and it happens to pass? It's hypothetical right now, but what's AT&T's next move?
And I apologize. Would you mind repeating your?
Yes. If I make a motion that the appeal is granted with the condition that the location be moved to an alternative location, which is the one proposed by the neighborhood council near the floodplain, just for identification purposes, what would AT&T's next move be?
Hypothetically, we would look at the location to see the feasibility of placing the vault within the location, and if based on our site analysis and our review on it that it does not come back to be a feasible location, then I would ask them the hypothetical as far as what would our next step be with regards to the board and with regards to your action.
Okay. Here's what I would propose. Once again, as I think you were here 2 days ago, when we continued an item, I would propose continuing this item maybe 30 days to give AT&T the opportunity to determine the feasibility of the floodplain alternative. And we would like to hear back from AT&T. And if 30 days is not enough, sir, you can let us know if you need more time, and you can let me know now. But my point is, and what I don't want to do, I'm not pointing fingers either direction, but assuming the community was right and Mr. Ledoux was right with the frustration on getting documents from AT&T, I'd expect that we won't have that problem. We'd like to have, I would like to continue the item for 30 days unless you tell me you need more time. And then I would like the feasibility of the floodplain location to be looked into so that you can come back to the board and we can make a determination with the council office as to which location would be best with everybody at the table.
I appreciate that. I think 30 days is a good starting point on that. I definitely would go ahead and defer to my colleagues in the construction and engineering field to figure out if that's an appropriate time frame. But for us to go ahead and get this ball rolling, get it started, I think 30 days is appreciated.
Okay. Well, let's do 30 days for now. Mr. Jordan, you're interested in something.
Well, yes. So for the record, then AT&T's tolling the shot clock so that this process can be...
Okay. Could we get an agreement from AT&T to toll the statute here, the shot clock?
For example, if the shot clock were to run out, then...
Well, let's see if we even have a shot clock issue. Mr. Ledoux, do we have a shot clock issue on this one?
Yes, we do. This is actually a 90-day shot clock, and this application was applied for September of last year.
Can we toll the shot clock for 30 days, sir, so we can give you the time to check the feasibility?
I cannot speak with certainty for 30 days, though. If there's a possibility that maybe we can hold it at least for 1 week, and I can definitely get back to staff, or at least through the weekend get back to staff to let them know.
You want to get some authority, I understand.
Right.
That's fair enough. So why don't let's do this. Let's continue the item for 1 week on the shot clock issue. And if you get back to us, you'll get back to us and let us know. I'm going to anticipate that you're going to be able to toll the shot clock issue. And if not, we'll be back here a week from today. If you are, then we will again continue it for the 30-day period. We will let Ms. Fletcher know, Fernando Campos or Raul Mendoza, our executive officer and assistant executive officer, one of them will let you know ASAP once we hear from AT&T on whether or not the hearing will be next Friday or will be 30 days from now. And I would be very, well, I'm comfortable. I can't speak for AT&T, obviously, but we'll just have to see. But I think the hearing is clear of what direction we're going, and I think it would be beneficial if the company could toll the shot clock so we could get a feasibility, some of these feasibility questions answered. So with that, we'll continue the item. Is it okay, colleagues, if we continue the item for the week, recognizing that a week from today, we may just have a housekeeping item that doesn't need anybody to be here. At the beginning of the meeting, I'll just automatically kick it another 20 days. Okay, that'd be all right. Ms. Fletcher? Shot clock is basically a statute of limitations in legal terms. It's a limit of time that the applicants have to go through the governmental process of getting these applications passed. They are, Mr. Ledoux, do you want to talk to how they are best? They are, or Mr. Jordan, they are best, they're set up in theory to benefit the applicant in the process, and so that's why the shot clock affects the applicant. That's why the applicant has the ability to toll it. When I say toll it, that means you basically say time out, and so the days on the shot clock won't run if the applicants agree that the days won't run. It's like if you're in civil litigation, a plaintiff can toll a statute of limitations by agreement, which would enable a statute to hold. No. Well, it's possible. That's why if AT&T won't toll the shot clock and they force us here to in a week. If they do toll the shot clock, then we're here in 30 days. But this gentleman doesn't have the authority which I understand. He didn't know he was going to be faced with this question today. It was 2 days ago when we did this question, it was a different company. And she had the authority on the spot to toll the shot clock. He doesn't have that authority. So, Mr. Jordan, so that'll be the order then. Anything you want to add on the shot clock issue for Ms. Fletcher?
No, just the law set up certain time limits by which the local government is supposed to act on an application of this type. The shot clock just defines how long that time is within which the city has to act.
Okay. And you just need the weekend to get back to us on that? Yes, sir. Okay. So on Tuesday, our office, either Mr. Mendoza or Mr. Campos, will hear from you and we'll send a notice to Ms. Fletcher as to whether or not there's going to be a hearing next Friday or whether or not I'm just going to do a pro forma continuance next Friday. Right, well, I'll be able to give you 3 days' notice. I'll be able to tell you on Tuesday. Okay. Well, I'll be able to tell you on Tuesday if you have to be here on Friday. Or we'll also tell you by the end of the day on Tuesday whether the hearing is Friday or whether it's a month from now. Got it. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you, everyone. By the way, the next hearing will be limited in time and scope to the feasibility of the issue at the floodplain. We're not going to revisit all of the issues that we spent the city's time on and your time on today. I'm sorry. Okay. So I've got a quorum issue. Well, she's got. They both do. Okay.
I'll just stay. They have it.
What? Okay, hang on. Let's go. Okay, John and Hannah will have to. All right, thanks. All right, so we still have quorum. So that is being continued. Thank you, everybody. Agenda item number 1. Let me get to it. Council District 8, tree removal, 1881, 1901, 1911, 1920, 1930, 1946, 1947, 2007, those addresses and others at West 94th Street in Council District 8, recommending that the board find that the tree removal classifies as operation, repair, maintenance, or minor alteration of existing street, sidewalk, and gutter involving negligible or no expansion of use beyond that previously existing and does not involve the removal of a scenic resource. Number 2, that the action is exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 1, Category 3, existing facilities, sidewalk repair or maintenance of the City of Los Angeles Environmental Quality Act Guidelines 2002. And number 3, that none of the exceptions to the use of a categorical exemption as set forth in Section 15300.2 of the state CEQA guidelines apply. And secondly, review and approve this tree removal permit request for 11 carob trees for the reconstruction of off-grade public sidewalks. Tree replacements are required. Mr. Tyson.
Good morning, President James, Commissioners, Executive Officer, Bureau representatives, and the City Attorney. The Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative, in collaboration with the Los Angeles City Council District 8, are proposing to repair a limited quantity of damaged sidewalks throughout the council district. Tanya Hani with Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative applied to the Bureau of Engineering for a Class A permit to reconstruct an off-grade sidewalk conditions along the 1800 through the 2100 block of West 94th Street. The Bureau of Engineering informed Mrs. Hani that the sidewalk reconstruction may require street tree removals. Therefore, Mrs. Hani contacted the Bureau of Street Services requesting the site be inspected to determine what the impacts would be to the trees due to the reconstruction of the sidewalk. A Bureau arborist inspected the subject location on April 18, 2017. The inspection revealed 11 carob trees growing in front of 1881, 1901, 1911, 1920, 1930, 1946, 1947, 2007, and a dead tree at 2037, and 2101 and 2111 West 94th Street. The trees measure approximately 20 to 30 inches in diameter by 30 feet to 40 feet in height. All 11 trees are growing in a 7-foot improved parkway. The roots and the root crowns from the subject trees has significantly contributed to the defective conditions of the public sidewalk. Surface roots are prevalent throughout the parkway, in some areas growing several inches above the soil surface grade. Due to the minimal parkway size, the required root pruning on one side of the trees would significantly and adversely affect the tree's health and root structural integrity, leaving them potentially unstable. Fernando Montes Rodriguez, 8th Council District Office Representative, was informed of the tree removal request on April 28, 2017. Notice of the proposed tree removals were posted on the subject trees on April 25, 2017. The Community Forest Advisory Committee was also notified. The applicant shall replant 11 24-inch box-size African fern pines and deliver 11 15-gallon container-size fir pines to the Bureau's nursery to replace the removed trees. All trees shall be watered by the abutting property owner for 3 years, a period of 3 years. I also spoke with Anna Apostles, the program manager for the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative, and I know we're delivering 11 trees to the nursery, which we tried to plant all the trees, but there's a time frame on this that's running out, and we need to get these locations fixed and new trees in, and her and I are going to work at planting trees at other locations where there isn't a tree to remove, but the sidewalk needs fixed.
Okay. Commissioner Jacinto?
Thank you, President James. Tim, thank you for this report and request. The sidewalks are damaged. So this question is, do the tree removals have to, are part of our sidewalk repair program that allows for accessibility, passage from one block to the end of the other?
This is actually the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative program, so they don't do it from corner to corner. That's why this is like consecutive 3 blocks, and they're only doing the locations in front of the property where the tree exists, and then it runs into the ADA compliant. Now, if they have 2 properties next door to each other, then they run the entire sidewalk through both those areas where those trees are, and it becomes ADA compliant, but they don't do the entire sidewalk.
Okay, so they're just doing the specific sites where the trees.
Yes.
And then the 24-inch, how long will they take to? I mean, 3 years? Will they grow fast?
Well, you have to realize these trees here were planted either post World War II or right during World War II. These carob trees we no longer plant in our parkways or in the city right-of-ways anywhere, because commensurate with the species at 60 to 70 years old, they become cavity-ridden. They become, I was here the other day with one that had the listophorus sulfur bacteria on the side of the tree, which isn't a conch. It actually just shows signs of internal decay. And so all these trees are within the same age group. They're starting to be in a declining state themselves, and cutting the roots at the base of the trees or cutting into the base of the tree, as some of these are closer to the sidewalk than the others, isn't sustainable.
I understand. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. I don't have any questions. I know you got it. What's your deadline on this, Tim?
I don't know the exact deadline, but I know it's real close, and I was hustling to try to get this done for them because it's within a month or so, something like this.
And okay, all right. You said there were some dead trees?
One of the trees is actually dead. You can see it in the photos that you
Yes,
provided.
but only one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The others are in a declining state. They look real nice and green, but they're still declining. Inside the structure of the tree is declining, in the trunk, the main stem, and those kind of things on the branches.
We get Willett's credit for these, don't we, Mr. Jordan?
We might. I can't say for certain, but I believe we...
We should. Yeah, okay.
That's interesting to think.
Well, they're going to be done to ADA standards, correct?
Yes, that's
correct. If we
Yeah.
fix it, they have to be fixed to ADA standards. I would just think we ought to get Willett's credit. Mr. Mata, you have a thought on that?
I'm not familiar with this particular project, but I believe we will get credit.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1. Is there a second on number 1 by Commissioner Jacinto? Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issue sending number 1 forthwith? We'll send number 1 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Agenda item number 3. Contract amendment, Gang Alternatives Program, Council Districts 8, 9, 14, and 15, recommending that the board authorize the Office of Community Beautification to amend an existing contract with the Gang Alternatives Program, the amount of $112,000 to provide graffiti abatement, public right-of-way cleanup, and community beautification. Mr. Roch on number 3.
Good morning, Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification. The Gang Alternatives Program is one of the nonprofit community-based organizations under contract with our office. At the beginning of the fiscal year, not all of our funds had come through yet, and so they were not fully funded for their full year allotment at the beginning of the year, and this $112,000 will make them full for the through the end of June, and we request board approval.
Thank you. Any questions on number 3? I don't have any questions. Commissioner Sindel's made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3. Commissioner Davis has seconded it. Therefore, without objection, we will adopt agenda item number 3. Any issue sending it forthwith? We will send it forthwith. Thank you this morning, Paul, for your time. Agenda item number 4, which is in Council District 6, settlement agreement with Philadelphia Indemnity Insurance Company. They were the surety, and a contract award, a turnover agreement with All American Asphalt Incorporated, recommending that the board first accept the settlement agreement with Philadelphia Indemnity Insurance Company, the surety, to execute a turnover agreement and complete the contract with All American Asphalt for $1,397,636. Secondly, authorize the director. Tim, you'll stay for a moment after the meeting this morning with me. Secondly, authorize the director, Los Angeles Department of Transportation, Office of Accounting, to receive check number 111-201-6426, dated May 31, 2016, in the amount of $489,410.11 from Philadelphia Indemnity Insurance Company and deposit said funds into fund number 655. Third, authorize the city engineer to issue a unilateral change order number 3 for work order E600773 Burbank Boulevard intersection improvement at Woodley Avenue to deduct the unused contract quantities and change order extra work. And fourth, authorize the city engineer to issue unilateral change order number 3 for work order 600773 Burbank Boulevard intersection improvement at Havenhurst Avenue to deduct the unused contract quantities and change order extra work. Mr. Smith, on what we are doing with this one.
Good morning, Chris Smith, Bureau of Contract Administration. I'll just take us back very quickly so we can retrace the path how we got here. On August 13, 2014, the board awarded a contract to Pima Corporation, doing business as Advanced Construction, to construct the Burbank, Havenhurst, and Woodley improvements. The improvements consist of putting in some left turn pockets, modifying some street lighting work, putting in some gates. These intersections are in the Sepulveda Basin, in the area that gets closed off if it rains. It's designed to fill up as a flood control basin.
Right.
During the course of that contract, the Bureau received a complaint from the Pipe Fitters Union that Pima Corporation had been involved in some litigation with them, which they had not prevailed in, and they owed them a substantial amount of money because there was an outstanding judgment. Their contractor's license was suspended. The Bureau investigated that and found that that was indeed the case. We contacted Pima and we gave them some time to remedy the situation. They actually did get their license back, but in the process of that, those financial difficulties they weren't able to overcome them. They were defaulted by 2 other cities in addition to us. We moved forward, and on December 18, 2015, we came before this board and you authorized a default motion defaulting Pima from the contract and authorizing the city staff to negotiate a settlement agreement with Philadelphia Indemnity Insurance, the surety company who was carrying the performance bond on this contract. We entered into negotiations with Philadelphia, and they proposed something that is a bit unique for the city. In fact, I think it's the first time we've ever done one of these. Normally when you have a default, the surety does what they call a takeover. In other words, they hire a contractor, they manage that contractor and finish the job. The city doesn't pay any additional monies. The surety takes care of any costs that are over and above the original bid. The surety in this case didn't want to do that. They wanted to give us a turnover agreement, which means they would go out, get several bids, which, by the way, the bidders that they got actually bid on this job originally. They were the second, third, and fourth bidders on the original contract. They go out, they get a bid, and then they tender that contract to the city free and clear. They turn over the contract with their new contractor with a new schedule of work and prices, a new bond, and new insurance. The reason why they wanted to do that is because even though the contractor had started, they had accomplished less than 5% of the work on the job. They had basically set up a yard and they'd done some removals. That's as far as they got. The surety didn't want to be on the hook for having to do the entire project as the manager of it. And that the negotiation was done in conjunction with DOE and with Ms. Rittenberg from the city attorney's office. So everybody that was needed to be there was involved. What the turnover agreement says is All-American Asphalt will complete the job for $1,397,636. The check that they issued, the city had a remaining balance from the original contract amount. The check that was issued to the city actually covers the difference between what the city has and how much All-American Asphalt bid, and it also covers about $20,000 in city costs because we had to go out and demobilize the site. It was becoming a public nuisance, and we couldn't let it sit like that.
All-American Asphalt was a low bid on that?
I don't know if they were or not. It doesn't really matter because they made us whole by issuing the check for the difference in the amount.
Okay.
So that's what we're asking for. Your approval on this will allow us to execute the agreement. The city attorney would sign the settlement agreement, and we would move forward. It'll allow us to cash the check that was issued to us, and DOT will take that check and deposit it in the appropriate funds. Items 3 and 4 they're accounting items. It's housekeeping. Because they gave us a new contract in essence with a new schedule of bid and prices, we need to zero out all the items on the original contract. So it's essentially closeout change orders to zero out all those items. That way, when this is approved, if you should do so, we can move forward immediately and we'll have no delays in paying the contractor when they do the work. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I think you did an excellent job, Mr. Smith, as usual. Thank you for the explanation. Mr. Jordan, I know that Ms. Rittenberg was here earlier. I think she worked on this one. Please thank her for her work on for us, and apologize. Sometimes we have these hearings that are a long time. I think she had to go elsewhere, and
Yes.
I'll generally pull, when we've got members of the public with speaker cards in, I'm going to call their items typically first to get them on their way in their private lives, since we all are paid to be here anyway. So
Yes, Lori had another meeting to go to, so she had done a good job on this. She and I have been in contact throughout this whole process. So
yeah, I appreciate your work, Ted, along with Lori on this. Interesting resolution. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for the creativity. I enjoy seeing that and finding ways to resolve these always interesting issues that surface sometimes. I don't have any questions. I'll make a motion on agenda item number 4, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? With that objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 4. Any issue sending number 4 forthwith? We will send number 4 forthwith. Everyone have a great weekend. Just an announcement. No management committee meeting today. Monday is a Memorial Day holiday. Wednesday, the board is dark. The Board of Public Works hearing is dark in observation of Ramadan. And so our next board meeting is Friday. Yes. So thank you. We're working on Wednesday, but no board meeting on Wednesday. So with that, we are adjourned. We have cleared the desk, haven't we, Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, you have.
All right, thank you.